You're listening to the Valley Current.
Location is very key for a lot of people. So just tell me more about how you did that. What'd you do?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Vickey, and then I am the founder and CEO of Veery offices. So basically, if you look into my past, so I came from a background of commercial real estate consultant, and then moved to operating my very own co-working space brand over the past 7 years prior to COVID.
Yes.
Now moving to this new business model. So the reason or the motivation behind me building Veery is really how I see commercial real estate about to change.
Right.
Right. So, prior to COVID, that a lot of companies, they do require chairs and desks for every employee to come into the office to work.
Right.
Physical appearance for a company is the most foundational importance.
Right.
For any business.
Yes.
To register their business, to show off, where their offices are, and also to manage all the employees to work together.
It's like a brand thing that make people proud, right? People want to be proud to be meeting in a very comfortable, beautiful space because you've added some really great furniture and amenities and made this space a lot less cluttered than the way it was when it had mostly lawyers in. And most of the lawyers, of course, want to work from home or coffee shops, and we still meet, but we meet mostly virtually.
Yeah.
And then maybe once a month we meet in person, usually at a courthouse.
Exactly.
Now the courthouse has become the new meeting place, which is amazing. So you're in court meeting your team in kind of a room that wasn't really made for that, but I'm sure courthouses will eventually create spaces to let lawyers meet, maybe for a charge, because they can make money that way, and lawyers will say that's fine because it's so convenient then to walk into the courtroom and not worry about traffic, parking, a million different things.
Exactly.
So you're running what I like to think of as a managed services model with technology, because it's not just people, you add technology. So tell us about the technology part.
Yeah, so the technology part is really that, what we see post-COVID, the major change is that a lot of companies started to rethink whether we need to have a physical office space for everything, every function of the team, right? And then so certainly because of, this virtual call becomes more frequent or more possible for the teams, a lot of companies started to utilize hybrid work model,
right.
Which means that, for about 30-35% of the work which can be done remotely, they prefer to use that for the convenience of employees,
right.
Not of the company themselves.
Right.
Right. So what I am building rather is actually a management platform to help companies to manage their physical space and also their remote employee so they can engage everyone on the same platform.
Right.
Right. And then so the question that you are asking is what kind of really has been changed prior to COVID versus now in terms of office function. Right. So what clearly the fact showed us is that not all the work requires to be happened in a physical space.
Right.
Courtroom serves its purpose. Right.
Right.
So the reason that they wanted to host this remote or virtual court meetings. It's because technology or remote certainly can do that, and it's not important to have everyone to have to be together in person.
And a point I want to make that fits right in is federal courts, which have beautiful buildings, beautiful courtrooms in those buildings, marble floors, all sorts of security. The judges are doing most hearings that don't involve trials by Zoom.
Yes.
Because they don't want to deal with lawyers shuffling in and out when they can move them with a time limit on the Zoom platform to literally say, this is your 15-minute hearing, this is your half-hour hearing, this is your 1-hour hearing, and then the Zoom is going to end. And there's no, oh, judge, just give me a few more minutes. Oh, judge, I'm shuffling with my briefcase. It becomes a much more effective use of time. So the judges who traditionally have run big courtrooms where the public is invited in, as well the public can come in by a Zoom public link.
Exactly.
And it surprised people because most judges are in their 60s and 70s, and some are even in their 80s and 90s. you would think they'd want to go old school, and they've adapted to this new model. And when you survey them, they prefer it. Most, not all, but most prefer it. Mm-hmm. Some are still like, I miss seeing the lawyers face to face in 3 dimensions, watching their gesturing, hoping that I can detect something from their body movements. But most modern judges, arbitrators, mediators, facilitators, you name the intermediary, are willing to say Zoom first.
Yes.
And if that doesn't work, maybe we have to have a meeting.
Exactly.
And so judges use the meeting as kind of a punch in the nose, right, to say, you guys aren't cooperating. You have to fly to San Francisco. You have to fly to San Jose and meet at my courtroom. I'm going to basically tell you how this is going to work, mm-hmm, and you're going to get some religion.
Right.
And that's really what they're doing. They're using physical presence as a whipping tool, because a lot of people are like, I don't want to fly to San Francisco, because many lawyers are outside the Bay Area, but they practice in the Bay Area.
Right.
And they don't want to deal with traffic, and they don't want to deal with the logistics, and they don't want to deal with the fact that, oh, then I have to make sure I can get on the train a certain time and so on.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's really interesting how the world has changed, because years ago, if you talk to lawyers, they'd be like, that's never going to work.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
So I think, the whole, in terms of the company's performance, they move to prioritize productivity.
Right.
So everything that can support with company's productivity, doesn't matter if it's remote or it has to be hybrid. Mm-hmm. Companies does prefer that.
Yes.
Right? However, we must admit that not all the job can actually have hybrid work or remote work.
Yes.
Certain job functions require to have in person.
Yes.
Which is why, given to this structure that a lot of companies, they still have to have a physical space.
Right.
Right. So what I am seeing is the office needs does not change in terms of like, do I want to have a physical space or not? What changed is what kind of office space do I want it to have?
Right.
What are the amenities do I want it to offer?
Yes.
What are the major functions or the use of the office that I wanted to kind of prioritize?
Yes.
For my company's productivity needs.
Yes.
Right. And then how often do I want to leverage
right.
that? So that's why I'm building Veery's platform, which means that, when we do believe that there is a lot of companies who still need a physical space,
yes,
but the traction of user space is going to be needed in order to, rent a space. They wanted to know how much utilization they have. They wanted to know, like how can I manage or provide amenities better to actually attract my employees to
yes,
make sure that they're happy at workspace.
Yes.
And third of all is how can I also effectively manage my remote employees.
Right. So now you have an actual team, because we're actually in a conference room. Yeah. Your partner is here, and we get him to say a few words, but he's running the whole technology side of things, right? He's making sure the technology runs 7x24?
Yeah, absolutely. My name's Johnny. I'm the co-founder for Veery Office. On my end, we make sure all the back-end things are labeled correctly, allocated correctly for both clients' retention, satisfaction, as well as customer service experience.
Yes.
So that way, not only are we making the real estate pieces more interesting, we're making it more effectively, that you're coming to your office space not just for showing up.
Yes.
Be more productive.
Right.
Be more focused.
Yes.
That way it creates a necessity for it instead of a luxury.
Yes. So it's kind of a business to business model. You're not really dealing with consumers. You might occasionally get a consumer who's like a writer who says, I want some minimal space for a day or two or more, but it sounds like it's more business to business.
Yeah.
And I wonder, do you think, because I remember I saw the business plan for Airbnb before they really became much of a company. And I remember thinking at the time I saw it, whatever number of years or decades ago that was, it seems like a long time. I remember thinking, how are people going to trust someone they don't know to come into their home, which is a very personal space, and use everything right to the jar of mustard inside the refrigerator? How is that going to work out? And I remember thinking at the time, if this works, it's really going to change the way people think of their homes. And of course, we saw the same issue come up with Zipcar, with these other places, Turo, where you rent your car on a timeshare basis.
Yeah.
And I wonder, do you imagine that Veery could get that kind of buy-in where you are like the Airbnb for all office space management and logistics of handling effectively a new model for how you get space rented for business-to-business use? Do you see it at that kind of scale eventually?
So actually, if we look into the market today, every landlord's office is very different.
Yes.
If you're talking about, people are Airbnb, they pay for design.
Yes.
Then what companies are looking for office is similar mentality.
Yes.
They're not looking for different landlords. They're looking for different type of, space that happen to match their personal preference.
Yes.
In terms of location, interior design, service, whatever that provide to that, right?
Yes.
However, in reality, companies, they're not looking for design. They're not looking for a super unique experience. Rather, they're looking for consistency.
Right.
And they're looking for curated office design or office services that cultivated directly to their needs, because every company is different.
Right.
So what I'm seeing that rather they are looking for different kind of design, which is also important, but not there.
Okay.
They are more looking for a consistent service with curated office experience that combined to their own company. Okay. Which is why we're providing value to these companies by offering a customized office services. That they can bring to their employees, showing that this is what our office, what our company represents.
Okay. So between, say, the Regis, which is kind of the old school model for this temporary use of space in particular cities, which many law firms become Regis members just to be able to bounce in and out of Regis clubs. They think of them almost like clubs, almost like Admiral's Club or like the United Club, airline clubs. Versus WeWork, which seems to have failed, but now it's renewing itself again. And I guess the founder is trying to buy it, which is really interesting story because that was like a crash and burn story, but he made a lot of money as it turned out. Where do you think Veery fits into that ecosystem?
Yes.
Of those two?
So what I see, the similarity of WeWork and Regis is they are a short-term office rental platform, right? So it doesn't matter how big or how small. The mentality of this company who walk into WeWork or Regis, they wanted to have something temporary because they're not sure about what's next. So for Veery, there is a difference that most of all these companies, they know at least they wanted to commit for a year. And then they just don't know, how to say that. They know they wanted to grow, but then they don't know, how much scalability this landlord or the space can offer to them. Okay. And also they wanted to have the customized office services, which, when you compare with WeWork or Regis, the service is exactly the same. There is no customized service offered for each different companies. But Veery offers that. One, we give the company scalability for them to grow in a much larger scale. Second of all is all the services can be made very customized, depends on what they need at that level. And third of all is also the flexibility. That, it's not like your traditional 5-10 years lease, right? We do give you some kind of like room for you to decide if you wanted to renew for another year, for another 2 years or not.
So how would someone reach you? Because I can think of VCs that would want to use it themselves, little super angel firms that are like VCs that will want something like this, maybe angel groups that would want to have something that they could kind of brand their monthly meetings around, as well as all the portfolio companies that are just gestating under their direction, being told, well, why don't you gestate at this location and we can meet up with you? How would someone meet you? You have a website. Certainly people can go there, right?
Right.
Where would they go?
Yeah, so the website name is called veeryoffices.com.
Okay, Veery. Like Veee, it's like your name, Vickey, but it's Veery, offices.com, so it's easy. And why was it Veery?
Yeah, so Veery is actually a bird.
A bird. A bird in Chinese? In Chinese?
No, it's actually an American bird.
American bird. Oh, I didn't know that. American bird. Okay.
It's a songbird that actually can sing a beautiful song.
Oh, interesting.
However, if you put it into a cage, doesn't matter if the cage is gold or silver, you won't be able to sing a song.
Oh, that's good.
It's a metaphor that, we basically envision the future that people do, prefer the hybrid work. That they want
the more creative aspect will come out.
In order to be the fullest kind of productivity level.
Oh, it's interesting.
You need to have freedom.
So you have a little logo that goes with the name? So there's a bird logo that goes with this.
Yeah.
Because Twitter got rid of the tweet thing, and I always thought someone should actually take their logo, which they've kind of abandoned, and say, this is now our logo, and we give you something that is even better in a physical way. Maybe that's a new brand idea for you than what the virtual way is of what they're doing. But conceptually, it's a bird that does better with some freedom than locked up in a cubicle or a cage or anything like that. That's good. That's a good name. Yeah. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, that's a really beautiful name. So they would go to the website, but are you also old school that you have an 800 number as well, or is that not part of it?
They do not have.
You don't have an 800 number, but you do have a phone number. Like if someone heard this podcast said, I got to call these guys instantly. What's Vickey's number, Johnny's number? I got to find out more about the locations, because you have multiple locations.
Yes.
And you're really covering all of Silicon Valley, because you've got locations both north, mid, and south.
Yes.
Right? So you have different size locations, so you can size this accordingly. So how would they call you? Yeah, so they call Johnny because he's more the operator? Then what number would they call you?
Usually we'll leave our direct number because we believe that's the easiest way to interact with our clients.
Yes.
It would be our cell phone.
Yeah.
My cell phone would be 408-772-7513.
Okay, great.
That way just hit us directly.
Right.
No matter phone number.
Like they could text you.
Yeah,
and they could say, look, I heard Jack Russo's Valley Current podcast, and you can probably help me. Because I'm thinking the other people that would hear this podcast is we have lots of people in the HR field. They're HR departments, and they're finding talent often from out-of-state companies that are trying to create small teams in Silicon Valley for creative work. So there's a natural match to those teams need to meet, but maybe just 3 times a week.
Yeah.
That's a good match. So it's like the HR finder, talent finder, becomes once we have the team assembled, I figured out where we can get a lower cost way to make sure that while you are all working from home, there's a monthly, weekly, whatever kind of pace of place that you can do your meetings to make sure everything will work out.
Yeah.
So it's a good idea, and I think there's some benefit to that. So we'll end with best of luck to both of you. It sounds like you're off to the races. You're doing something unique. You're entrepreneurs. You're doing it without any real substantial venture money, right? You're doing it kind of a bootstrapped way, but you're open to taking venture money to grow, because you can obviously multiply the places, grow the technology, grow the marketing and advertising, because you got to get the word out. You got to do more than just the guerrilla marketing that you're doing. And maybe in the next 5 or 10 years, you'll be the future Airbnb of this kind of shared use of space, because it does actually create some added value in the bigger scheme. So good luck with it.
All right.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Tune in next time on the Valley Current.